There we go. Lovely to see some old friends in the audience and some people I've connected with online. Looking forward to chatting afterwards and connecting. I'm very friendly on LinkedIn, so drop me a line. So my name's Rose, and what I'm going to chat to you about over the next 9 minutes, 45 seconds, is that shift, making the shift between incremental product development to breakthrough. So a little bit of context. So scarily, I've been in product for at least a couple of decades, and both as a product manager and running product teams. But for about four and a half of those, I was involved in setting up a corporate innovation lab. Very good at Irish dancing. Yeah. No, I'm not. I'm really not. And so what we were doing there is looking at accelerated techniques and processes for developing new products and new propositions in big, gnarly corporate environments. And so that's what I'm going to share with you, some of the learnings from that, some of the gotchas as well. But what do we mean by moving from incremental to breakthrough? Fortunately, Chris has already teed this up, so that's great. I know. All right. Look, any organisation needs to have a balanced portfolio of bets. And I think the Horizons approach is a really simple one of explaining it. There's loads of different definitions of what Horizon 1, Horizon 2, Horizon 3 are. But I think the sort of simplest and easiest for an organisation to digest is basically this. That when you're talking about Horizon 1, core, this is really about your current product in your current market. And then when you're pushing into Horizon 2, you're talking about your adjacencies. That might be a new product in your existing market or looking at new markets. And then Horizon 3, that's the risky stuff because that involves business model innovation generally. It's the stuff that corporates find really difficult. What I'm going to chat about a little bit is my experience in just a few quite simple techniques to nudge from Horizon 1, which is where we spend most of our time as product people, into Horizon 2. Is that all right? Sound all right? Okay, good. I'm in the right place. All right, so the first thing I think was an observation. How many people here have run design sprints and are using them? Yeah, lots of us, right? So they're a really great way of getting acceleration, particularly if you're working cross-functionally. And that's actually where I started. So I went out to Berlin and learnt with AJ and Smart how you run these, and it was great. And it was a brilliant way of getting cross-functional teams that were quite used to sparring together. The thing that we observed, though, is that idea of innovating very quickly, ideating very quickly, and then going into validatory testing, it leaves an awful lot on the table because you're narrowing very quickly. So the absolute unlock for us was to add in, and I'll show you the end-to-end process in a bit in the most boring slide you'll see this evening, was actually to do exploratory insights up front. Because what you're doing then is you're getting a really strong read on the goals, the motivations and the pain points of your market. And from that, you have a much wider landscape that you can use to innovate from, rather than starting with a set of preconceived ideas and just testing within that. So this was a big unlock for us. The next really key thing, as product managers, we're used to managing our stakeholders. So we're out communicating, checking we understand what they need. The big shift that you need when you're going into Horizon 2 is you actually need to involve them. So we had to find ways that we could take a large group, a multidisciplinary group, which is essential to getting this perspective within an organisation, on a whole journey. And that involves a whole bunch of stuff which I can share with you if we chat afterwards or if you connect with me online. But this idea, you're moving into much riskier territory when you're moving into this sort of Horizon 2 adjacencies. So you really need to take them on the journey. Otherwise, what you're doing is you're triggering an immune system reaction within the organisation. So a lot of what you'll see in the sort of process that you have to do is trying to preempt this immune system reaction and get people on board by including them in the process. There's three aspects to innovation that are really critical. So you'll hear about desirability, which is what we're used to in product. Do people want it? Will they pay for it? But you also need to amp up on feasibility, can we do it? And viability, is the organisation going to accept this? Does it fit with our business model? Does it fit with our strategy? And those are the folks that you need to more closely involve. I think the other key thing is that you need a process. I think it's commonly held, particularly by quite practical people, that you need some creative genius to come up with what the next big product idea is going to be, or if we're going to go into a particular market, we'll get a big agency and there'll be lots of bearded guys, and they'll come up with a great idea and that's it, that's what we'll do. The reality is it's systematic process that gets you to validated ideas and really identifying those opportunities. The other thing about having a systematic process is that you can, as well as showing that you're actually dealing with this with a process, it shows the progress as you're going through it, so people understand where you are in what would otherwise look like a very messy system. And then we've got to bring in the boss here. Like, it is really important that you keep senior stakeholders involved when you're moving out into sort of Horizon 2 area. The main thing we found is that we need to reframe the role. So if you're in a C-suite role, your job is generally to judge. We do not want them in a judging role when we're in this exploratory phase. So you actually need to actively tell them how they need to be, how they need to show up, and what you need them to contribute. So this is basically a distillation over week by week of the process that I've been using both within big gnarly corporates and also startups and scale-ups. Now, anyone who's been doing startups design sprints will recognise this bit around the test and learn and ideation. So the bits that are added on here is the upfront alignment with teams. So are we all trying to solve the same thing, which in design sprints you often find people aren't. So you've got all these great ideas and you're testing them, but everyone's trying to solve different things. Then the exploratory, the more sort of ethnographic insights, and then this focus on bringing feasibility and viability into your process as you go. And then if we look at what that practically looks like on a weekly basis, so we'll typically be sprinting through these, and we'll be doing, in a typical design sprint, you might do a sprint and then an iteration sprint. We'd be doing at least 4 of these on a model loosely based on Strategizer, but a lot more forensically structured. And you'd be doing probably like 4 iterations, testing maybe 3 or 4 concepts with 4 or 5 features within each. So Monday, again, this will be very familiar to design sprint folks. This is where we're building our hypothesis between needs and solutions. We've got the moderated or unmoderated customer interviews going on at this phase. But the Thursday is the really critical bit, because this is the bit where what we're doing is we're bringing in our viability and feasibility stakeholders. They are getting to understand what has gone on in the problem space, the customer space, but they're also helping to do very high-level assessments of feasibility and viability. So we're all starting to learn where the guardrails of what's feasible as we go through the process. So we're all on the bus together learning. So if that all works, we end up with 3 key outcomes. Obviously, we've got validated features, so we'll understand where we've resonated with our audiences. We'll know what works, but importantly, we'll also know why. But the really critical thing is that we'll have developed a shared belief system within the whole group of those stakeholders. We'll all be advocating for the solutions because we've been on the journey, we've heard the customer insight, we've established the guardrails, and we'll all be talking the same language. That's it.